A mad inspiration to say that.
Take your mask off.
Good afternoon. In case anyone hasn't met me yet, my name is Wendy, or in case you've forgotten, and I'll be your server today. And of course, you are welcome here, no matter who you are, who you love, who you live with, where you come from, what your background is, all of that. We are all welcome here. And there is a song that exemplifies that based on a poem by Rumi, and the song is in your Graham Books number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. You might already know it. That's part of the poem. There's another part of the poem that starts off talking about how though you have broken your vows 1,000 times, you are still welcome here. Though you may be all that kind of a sinner, you are still welcome here. So the other part of this song that I'm going to teach you, and I'm going to sing it in 2 parts. Somebody's waving. Oh.
I'm waving. Sorry.
It goes like this. What? No,
Does that start?
come, come. Okay. So it goes like this. Though you have broken your vows 1,000 times, though you have broken your vows 1,000 times, though you have broken your vows 1,000 times, though you have broken your vows 1,000 times. So that just keeps going through the whole song. Some of you are going to sing that part. We'll call you the forgivers. And the rest of you are going to sing, Come, come, whoever you are, and which is in your hymn book. So though you've broken your vows, people are going to start first, and then they'll just keep going. So I'm hoping that maybe these 2 sections here will do the though you've broken your vows. That includes you. Yes.
It does.
All the way to Mike. Okay.
Or follow Wendy.
Or, so, and then I'll start the rest of you in. And you guys at the back can sing with whichever group you like. Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, come, come, whoever times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times. Do you think you could switch?
Though you have broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows, whoever you are, we honor, worship, the lovers of thee, because there's no caravan else is there. Come, yes, again, come once more. Come. Now we've all welcomed each other. We are privileged to be meeting on the unceded traditional territory of the people of the Comox First Nation and the Penlash and the like Sam, and a couple of others. And it's our privilege to be here, and it behooves us to be mindful of how things take care of the land as best we can. Today's service is mostly, more than half, composed of a video service that was broadcast across Canada today earlier, and was put together by various ministers and lay people members of the Canadian Unitarian Council. So we'll be watching some of it, not the entire video. It seems, no, when I looked over it a couple of times, it seemed better to chop up a bit. So that's what we're doing. And the video starts with a message from Linda Thompson. Maybe you remember a couple months ago, we had Joan Carolyn give us a workshop on Zoom. She's a staff person in the CUC, who takes care of the congregational services as needed from about Thunder Bay West. Linda Thompson, Reverend Linda Thompson, is the one who does the same thing for the eastern half of the country, and sometimes they mix it up a bit, but mostly that's who they are. So Linda's message today starts off the recorded service, talking about the challenges of being church communities and national organizations in these times, in the wake of a pandemic from which we've all been feeling the effects for 3 years or more, and in the wake of many other disruptions that are happening around us in the world at large, within our communities, for some congregations anyway, the concept of adding an eighth principle that had to do with racism was a difficult process. It didn't seem to me to be so difficult in this congregation, but it has been for some. And so the idea is that when things are difficult, we need, even more than usual, we need to live by the covenants that we have with one another, and the promises that we make to one another about how we will be in community together. So that's kind of the overarching theme of this service. That part of the video where Linda Thompson is talking will be followed by a lovely video of a chalice lighting that happens all across the country, pretty much. And during that time, we will light our chalice too. Has anyone got a birthday this week? For this one? We do like to light the chalice for you, but not yet. Yeah, and then so that there's that chalice lighting video, and then there will be a short 5 minutes of some of the Canadian youth community, Unitarian youth community, talking about what is covenant anyway, and why do we need it, and how we do it in our, at least in our youth group, which is relevant to all of us. So our wonderful, colorful tech person is going to play those videos for us back to back, and then we'll have another few words from the server here. Thank you.
I know, right? Okay.
We have over the past 3 years been living in extraordinary times. Here we are, ordinary people, trying to live lives of meaning and integrity living in extraordinary times. It has been difficult, yet I felt the support of others, and that has given me hope. But we are tired.
The pandemic demands our attention. It takes up a lot of our energy, and it is only one of the demands that is placed on us. The work we, as a Canadian Unitarian Universalist community, have typically undertaken has changed, but it continues. Finding ways to sustain our much-loved UU communities and to respond to the hurts and needs we see has been extra challenging. And I know from the conversations I've had with many of you that I'm not the only one who's tired. I'm tired, and at times I have just wanted to press pause to make it all, if only for a while, stop. But it hasn't. Our communities and our congregations have continued to change. They always have. By now, we've all heard of some of the larger effects of the pandemic, and we've seen some of them too. And those effects have found their way to Canadian Unitarian Universalism. We are currently seeing a significant turnover in our congregation's ministerial and professional leadership. Continentally, many ministers have decided to retire or make a change. Some congregations have found themselves without ministerial or religious exploration professionals. The strain of our on-again and off-again in-person services and programs has been difficult. How can you plan when you don't know what you're planning for or who you are planning with? This has been tough. I have wanted to, on more than one occasion, press pause, but we haven't. I haven't. Our focus on inclusion and truth and healing and reconciliation has seen us make a bold, if sometimes contentious, decision to add an eighth principle, requiring us to respond and to take action to address racism and systemic barriers. Dear people, let's take a breath together right now. Breathe. This is a lot, and it is important. If you, like me, love this faith tradition, if you have found it sustaining and challenging and life-affirming, you will share my commitment to keep doing what we just did. Breathe together, and then do it again. Keep doing that. In remembering that we belong to one another and that we love our communities and this larger movement, we can find ways to, if we need it, to reconnect, to recovenant, so that we can companion one another on this wild journey we are on. If we keep our hearts open and our minds curious, we'll be able to do the work together. We individually will be changed, and so too will our congregations and communities. It is, after all, the way of the world. I love Unitarian Universalism too much to hit pause for long. There are people who need us. The world needs us. I need us. The world is changing, and so must we. There is work to be done. Let us take another breath, and let us move into our future together.
There are days when you're tending the embers, when the flame flickers down to a spark, when the shadows
I think that the language we usually use around covenanting is that it's a living document, and that really needs to be upheld for the covenant to work well. You really have to treat it like it's not a set in stone rule book, but agreed terms and conditions that everyone is a part of and everyone has established, and that can be changed and altered and flow for however everyone needs it to. And it shouldn't be like some thing that's super hard to alter. It should be accessible to everyone.
Yeah, I think there's two ways that we go back to it. The first one is whenever we start a new like weekend con, or we like at my youth group, I know we always did a new one every year. So to not just grab the document and say, okay, are we still okay with this? Great, awesome, everyone sign it, we're done. But to start over. Now, oftentimes when you start over, it ends up looking pretty much the same, but you still have to think about what you're agreeing to. You still have to think about what you're putting on there a little bit. And oftentimes, because there's a lot of transition in the youth community, it's only an age range of, I think, 5 to 7 years, depending on what if you're doing junior or senior youth. But there's a lot of changing in there, and a lot of the things we talk about or the terminology we use on there, newer people may not fully understand it. And so taking that time to create a new covenant and explain all the things we're putting on it, not necessarily from scratch because it often looks the same, but to not then just take one document and use it over again, but to start over, is one really good way to remind people what the covenant is, to make changes fluidly over time as they need to change. And then the second one is creating a way for someone to feel comfortable saying when they think there was a breach of covenant, which is why the community attention box is anonymous, both for breaches of covenant, but other concerns people have throughout the weekend. They can voice that without feeling like anyone knows who said anything, and then something can change, and hopefully change for the better without that person being called out specifically in any way, because that can often sometimes be a barrier, I think, for a lot of people about speaking up or saying that you feel you're hurt in some way, is that people won't agree with you and then see you in a negative light afterwards. So that's something I really like about the community attention box. But having a process for reviewing the covenant, and not just saying it's a living document, but then not have any way of people then bringing up the topic of changing it or evolving it, right? Because it doesn't really mean anything then.
Also, the other thing about covenant is that it doesn't feel like rules. It feels like they're more like aspirations that you're like living into. And kind of in that way, like at least in my experience with youth covenants, they're generally not framed in the negative. They're always like positive, like we will do this and we will try to include other people and like blah 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 blah. And they really invite you to become the best version of yourself. And sometimes people fall out of covenant, but covenant always invites you to come back into it. It doesn't try to punish you or like disgrace you for not living up to these standards. It's like a community thing that like all of us together are working towards holding this covenant together. And this is something, it's like a community agreement, like what we were talking about before, that these are all things that we want to do, and this is the type of community we want to become. And I think that's also an important aspect of Covenant.
Great. So what I'm hearing is check in often, make room and ways for people to be able to speak up when it's scary, and to consider and acknowledge the different people that might be in the room at this time, that it's going to be different from next time. So to keep doing it. The community is going to change just as much as the covenant. And it's a reflection of those two things. That's what I'm hearing from all of you.
And we will care.
Sort of skipping it. That song, a bit long, but the words for it are on that piece of paper that some of you have on one side of the page. The song is called Tending a Spark. And it was beautiful. And we will care for each other as the world around us unravels. And we will tend to the spark of hope that lives within our grieving hearts. And we are here now in this present moment, lifting our voices and hearts. And we are here now. We have come together. We are tending the spark of hope. Oh, may it grow. And part of how we do that in this congregation is that we aren't actually lighting candles for one another, we're putting a stone into water, but to acknowledge particular joys or concerns that we want to share with the community. And that's all part of holding ourselves, taking care of one another in this covenanted community that we have. If anyone would like to light a stone today, would be a good time to do that. Please give us your name. Hi, I'm Christy, and I'm happy to pop in a stone of gratitude for people doing the right thing. Hello, I'm Heather, and I want to express joy, happiness, and a very happy birthday to my Sutlagama Ethley, who is 11. I putting a stone in today for my daughter and send her special love during a difficult time. So I'm holding her. And for my concern for my sister and for some my nephew health.
I'm Marvin, and this is a zone of concern for our friend and member Murray Canadian Gill. I was heard from Norm that he had emergency in the hospital this morning.
Who is that?
Murray Canadian Gill.
I'm Jane, and I haven't shared much about my husband Paul for a while, and I have some good news. 2 weeks ago, tomorrow, he had a belly button hernia repair. So he has to be off dialysis for a while. It's 2 weeks, and he's doing amazingly well. Blood work, swelling, yes, but blood pressure and weight. So we're monitoring it, but we're hoping for another week, and we're hoping maybe we can get a weekend off once in a while, because it's really like a break, a huge break for us. Right.
Okay. This is both a care and a concern for healthy habitat. Australia is working on organizing an event here, which is on Saturday morning, 9:30, with various presenters, an interactive forum on healthy habitat on Saturday, March 2nd, 30. So a lot of different things. Promo isn't really coming yet. So the care and concern is to draw people out together to talk about healthy habitat. Saturday, March 4th. Here. Poster will be out soon. With a stone in it.
I'm Barbara, and I just wanted to put in a stone of gratitude and caring for the people who are here, for the people who stay home when they test positive or when they're not feeling well, and that it allows us to still meet. It's good to see everyone.
Hi, Steve. Just a quick note. We support Transforming Our World, our TOW contribution, and I've been able to, been fortunate the last couple of weeks to help fill in to somebody who's missing, who provides putting the band in order in terms of supplies, and they hold the supplies up here above us, and it's really interesting to see just what kind of support that what we're contributing help to support the people who, and once or twice a week, the band goes downtown and people get things they need, all kinds of resources, food, clothing, things, but all kinds of things. So it's terrific. Turn on here. This is a thing I made a couple of days ago. It's a St. Bridget's cross, and it signifies that the season of Imbolc is upon us. So I'm sharing a collective joy, which is manifesting in all of us. It's for collective creativity, sort of patron saint of NGOs.
Hold all of those joys and concerns in our hearts and in our prayers. I'll put one more stone in for anything not expressed today. So Our next piece of video is, somebody you'll probably recognize. Our very own Aaron, giving a little reflection on, the subject of caring for one another and covenants and such. And then it will be followed by a video of a song, which is called, Your Grief for What You've Lost. It's short and it repeats. You might not know the tune right away, but you might know it by the third or fourth time through. And you've got it on that little piece of paper. Yeah, so Heather, thank you.
And we will care for each other.
And we will care for each other as the world around us unravels. When I first heard those words in the song we just heard, my first thought was, that is exactly what covenanting through transition means. Transition often feels to me like an unraveling, whether we choose the changes or they're forced upon us. Our life unravels, maybe a little, maybe a lot, and then we're left with a whole bunch of messy yarn to figure out what to do with. Of course, we would want to take care of each other in a time like that. We covenant to take care of each other in moments like that. And then my second thought was, that sounds way easier than it is. I know I find it much easier to take care of those I love when I feel grounded. When their world is unraveling and mine is not, or not so much at least. For example, I found it much easier to support my partner through transitions, change of job, starting grad school, her parent health scares, and the like, relatively easily. And this has been a two-way street. However, when we adopted a delightfully sassy 9-year-old in 2021, both our worlds started unraveling at the same time. Our relationship, how we saw ourselves, what we thought we were knitting, which could be perhaps represented as a soft, cozy scarf with a colorful design, began unraveling. We began to reshape it into something new. It began twisting and turning into no pattern we'd ever seen before. And our yarn was joined by our kids. Her own world was also dramatically unraveling and reforming, and she was randomly pulling at strings and tying knots to try and make herself some kind of safety net. Caught in this tangle, it became a bit more difficult to take care of each other. As we were stressed out trying to figure out how to become parents, from the seemingly impossible tasks like figuring out how we are supposed to work full-time between the hours of 9:30 and 2, to the millions of tiny details that you've never thought about until you become responsible for an elementary school child overnight. My partner and I were simultaneously trying to figure out how to take care of each other and our kid when we were exhausted, pretty clueless, and under extreme stress. Every time we thought we'd figured it out for like 5 minutes, something else we'd never considered popped up. Like last February, I picked up my daughter from school one day to discover she was very upset with me. When I asked her what was up, she was like, "Don't you know what day it is?" Truthfully, it took me a moment to figure out what day it was. Monday? I hazarded. No, it's Valentine's Day. Oh, I see. Initially, I felt really relieved that I had, in an unexpected moment of planning ahead a week or so earlier, I had picked up a small stuffy and a chocolate heart for her. I tucked it into a closet and forgot about it. Feeling confident I had the solution, my number one parenting fail, I clarify, "Oh, you're upset because it's Valentine's Day." "No, you didn't get me Valentine's gifts." Still convinced I had the solution, I assured her there was a little package for her at home and we could go and get it right now. Problem solved, right? No, you don't get it. Not for me. For the kids in my class. Everyone had gifts for the class except me. What? What kind of gifts? She opened her bag to show me her collection of little cards and bundles of candy and heart-shaped erasers and the like. And she said sadly, I didn't have anything to give to them. After consulting with a few other parents, we discovered that's a thing here. There was a class list provided a few days earlier, and we later found it mushed at the bottom of her bag. This moment was a small one, and relatively easily fixed with an apology and a reminder we were new at this whole parenting thing and we didn't know, and we promised to get her some gifts for next Valentine's Day, which reminds me I should get on that. And it was one moment in an ocean of small and large moments of feeling caught off guard, of not knowing what to expect, of not knowing what to do, of feeling like I had failed. My top 10, not my finest moments in the last 3 decades easily happened in my first year with her. Of course, none of this was helped by adopting her in 2021. About halfway since this pandemic started. A time when things were constantly changing at work and in social life too. I don't need to remind you the number of times we had to pivot or try and figure out what the new normal was or is. Can we meet in person? Can we travel? Will school be cancelled? Should we wear masks? And 1,000 of other questions for every little decision. Things that were fairly easy to plan in the past became as elusive as picking lottery numbers. Much as it is hard for my partner and I to figure out how to take care of one another when we both feel like we're unraveling, when we are going through the most stressful time in our relationship, it is way harder when everybody else is maxed out too. We know the pandemic has not been the same for everyone. Some people have been significantly impacted much more than others, depending on where you live, what industry you work in, if you work, if you were sick, if you lost people that you were close to, if you have marginalized identities, and many more factors influence how you might have been affected. And while it's true for many people, there have been things that have been positive about the unfolding of the pandemic, including access to spaces that were previously difficult, unexpected collaborations, ability to work from home, ability to move to a preferred location, and maybe even avoiding traveling to work or family events that you didn't really want to go to. I know I'm not the only one. It's also true that almost everyone at some point has been negatively impacted, and some people continuously. Everyone has been hurt, has felt exhausted, has worried about their own or a family member's health, has wished for this to be over already. We have lost many things over the last 3 years. We have faced many transitions, and we have had little time to reflect and process what's happened. As the restrictions have been lifted in different places at different times, we have been increasingly pushed into returning as soon as possible, often in a frantic rush to return to some semblance of what we had before, though it will never be what we had before. Most of us have barely taken a beat to grieve what has been lost. We have all been a bit crispy at times. So how do we take care of one another when we are not at our best, when we are crispy? Our family therapist has frequently reminded us it's not about being perfect parents or never making mistakes. It's all about the repair, she likes to say. We are going to mess up. That is guaranteed. We will make mistakes. We will hurt one another. And we will show up and we will repair. And when we don't do that perfectly, we will repair the repair. And every time she reminds me of this, I feel like I can breathe a little bit deeper. This parenting journey has forced me to face what it means to live my values when things are difficult like no other. When I and those I love most are struggling to be their best selves at the same time. To lean on the faith, the hope that we will show up and we will repair and we will find our way. We will co-create something new, something that was unimaginable before. When I think how we could covenant with each other during these times of great transition and change in our world and in our UU movement, including the pandemic, the 8th principle work, the huge transition of religious professionals that Linda shared with us earlier, to name only some of them, I think it actually makes sense. Because we don't really need a covenant so much when things are going well, when we're all grounded and aware and being our best selves. We need a covenant to make space for our mistakes, our challenges, and to guide us towards repairing them. In many cases, this pandemic has shattered the illusion of our striving for perfection, our bringing our Sunday best, and that is good. So let us covenant to show up in our full humanity, even when we are messy, even when we make mistakes, even when we may have hurt someone, knowing that it doesn't make us bad people, it makes us human. Let us covenant to show up to repair what needs to be repaired, because we believe what truly breaks a covenant is not making a mistake, but turning away, ignoring the hurt we hold or the harm we cause. Let us covenant to show up with grace and compassion, and let the love and joy that comes from this work come through. Let us covenant to show up to share our grief when our hearts are broken by the destruction of the earth, by the pain of racism and other oppressions, by the seemingly unrelentless impact of this pandemic that we once thought might only last for a few weeks, by all the things that are uncontrollable and uncontainable. Let us covenant to take care of ourselves and each other as the world around us unravels.
Your grief for what you've lost, your grief for what you've lost, holds a mirror up to where you are so bravely working. Your grief for what you've lost, your grief for what you've lost, holds a mirror up to where you are so bravely working. Your grief for what you've lost, your grief for what you've lost, holds a mirror up to where you are so bravely working. Your grief for what you've lost, your grief for what you've lost, holds a mirror up to where you are so bravely working. Your grief for what you've lost, your grief for what you've lost, holds a mirror up to where you are so bravely are so bravely working. Ah, your
The collection taken today will be shared in the form of grants to those successful
We'll have our own offering a little later. But first, I invite you into a time of both reflection and connection. Connection with one another, connection with yourself. And a reflection on some of the things that you've been hearing today. And some of the questions that were suggested by the people putting this series together are about how you react to change or the possibility of change, since we are constantly in change and perhaps more so than sometimes. This is also related to, I think it's related to that workshop that we had in December with Joan Carolyn, in which on Zoom, on which we were at some point brainstorming ideas of how this congregation might become more of the union congregation that we would like to be, and what that might look like. And also the service that was also on a video a couple of weeks ago with Liz James and Barker. That was kind of about, well, they call themselves hysterical women, but it was about, there's a whole size shape for every person in this congregation. So how do you feel when you are asked to do something differently? Something that was familiar and comforting and that gave you pleasure, but now you're being asked to change how you do it. How do you feel when you're asked to help create a new space or a new way of doing things that honors an even wider variety of people? People who have varying resources and traditions and triggers and comforts of their own. How do you feel in your body when you imagine transition or change in this Unitarian community? What feelings arise in your chest or your throat or your heart or your shoulders or your face or your limbs? You feel energized? You feel tense? You have anticipation or loss or grief? Does change affect your identity? Does it value you? Does it alter your role? And what brings you to life in this congregation that you want to bring with you into whatever new thing we gradually turn into? What should continue with this new thing that we're creating together? I know it's a whole lot of questions, but whatever came up for you during that or during the rest of the service, a little bit of a reflection on it by yourself, and I'll ring a gong in a few minutes. And at that point, you're allowed to share with each other. And there's also a table back there with markers and paper on it. If somebody would rather do their reflection, writing or drawing or coloring even. Whatever. So let's spend the next few minutes doing that individually, and then when I ring a gong, you can start sharing with one another if you want to, or not if you don't.
So,
Sorry it was so short, but I hope the conversations will continue with whoever stays afterwards for dinner or just for hanging. Our last, I also I apologize to Christy, who asked us to put a stone in for her mother, her friend, her mother. And Heather has done that. Our last bit of video has a song during which the offering basket will be passed. And then some closing words from Reverend Linda Thompson about covenant and what holds us together.
Yield.
Do you have a basket?
I'll meet you there. Amen.
And
Then
that's
bless.
the words for this song if you want to sing along.
We got all the love, all that we need to change our world. Hallelujah. We got all the love, all that we need. Blessed be. We got all the love, all that we need to change our world. Hallelujah. We got all the love, all that we need. Blessed be. Hope. We got all the hope, all that we need to change our world. Hallelujah. We got all the hope, all that we need. Blessed be. We got all the will. We got all the will, all that we need to change our world. Hallelujah. We got all the will, all that we need. Blessed be. We got all the song. We got all the song, all that we need to change our world. Hallelujah. We got all the song, all that we need. Blessed be. We got all the love. We got
Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm so glad you could be here. I may not say it enough. I truly appreciate you. I know I don't say it often enough. I need you. I need each one of you. My relationships with all of you and with others are essential to my understanding of myself as a Unitarian Universalist. I can't exist as a UU without you because I believe it's something we do together. We are human. We make mistakes. Our feelings get hurt. People disagree with one another. Some leave. But being UU is something we do in relationship to one another, even when things are hard. What we believe isn't what holds us together. We don't have a creed. The glue in our UU communities is found in our aspiration to be in relationship. Reverend Victoria Safford wrote about a member of a congregation she served. The woman, nearly 90, was not a fan of the minister or of most of the choices that the congregation was making. And yet Safford wrote about her time in that congregation. What I loved in her most was her commitment to that church, no matter what. Her fidelity to it, the ferocity with which she paid her pledge each year, no matter how wayward the budget or insufferable, in her humble opinion, the sermons. I think of her often when we say, this is a congregation bound not by a creed, but by covenant. Safford continues, the central question for us is not what do we believe, but more, what do we believe in? To what larger love? To what people, principles, values, and dreams shall we be committed? To whom, to what are we accountable? In a tradition so deeply steeped in individualism, it becomes a spiritual practice for each of us to ask these questions not once and for all, but again and again. Safford wrote that covenants are declarations of interdependence. Things are hard, friends. Sometimes it feels like the changes we face are relentless. Maybe they are. And I can't do it alone. None of us can. But together we are on a journey of learning and action and interdependence. I am so glad that we are doing this together. Thanks for being on the journey with us. And thanks for being here today. And for those of you who are interested in the virtual coffee hour, if you want to join, just say yes when you receive the invitation.
Okay, just say yes. Thank you, everybody, for being here too. And let's, as we extinguish the chalice, let's join hands, or if you don't want to touch you two, just join in a circle, and we'll sing Carry the Flame. And I hope some of your things were covered. All good. Right.
Where's the camera?
There we go.
Oh, such great news about your husband.
Yeah. It's temporary, but it's still, we're grateful.
It's in the bonus, it's in the bonus lane anyways.
Yeah.
So great to see you.
Better let someone else in.
Louis. There's no sound now.
What?
Yeah, there hasn't been sound from most of the
Oh, no, hold on.
in-service stuff.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, how about now?
I can hear you, but I don't hear like the people in the room.
Oh, probably not. No, we need an industrial microphone to pick that up.
No. Usually I can hear that though.
Yeah, I know. Hold on.
It's weird.
So I'll show you what we're working with. This is the thing that picks stuff up. Hello. And it is for a small meeting room, and this is the best one we have right now. So
Right.
the industrial size ones are not in budget whatsoever. I've already checked. I would love it. I would.
How much
It'd be
are they?
great. Oh, nasty. They're nasty. They're like studio grade. Yeah. They are up there. They're up to somewhere from like $900 to $5,000.
Oh, God.
Yeah, yeah. The ones that really work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's potluck time.
Yes. I mean, I could hear everyone who spoke.
It smells like pizza. Here, show you what's happening. Following Margaret White. There we go, kitchen.
Yeah.
May brought a pizza. It smells so good.
Is Louis staying for potluck?
Who?
Louis?
I don't know. I don't think so. She doesn't generally. Doesn't want to pass things on to Leo, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are, and there you are. Ta-da. Ta-da. Sort of.
Go in
Yeah.
and enjoy yourself.
All right.
Love
you
you.
guys. Thank you for tuning in.
Love everybody. Hugs to
Love you
everybody.
guys.
Bye.
Hi, Christy.
Hi.
It was good to talk to you the other day at the book club. Thank you.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you. Thank you to you too. Okay, get to the potluck, Heather.
Yeah.
Yeah.